Are the 49ers about to dump their biggest contract mistake? The Brandon Aiyuk Bradley Chubb trade that could save San Francisco's season? What do you do when a massive contract extension turns into your worst nightmare? When the star receiver you just paid becomes an injured albatross dragging down your entire operation? When the drama, the missed games, and the regret all pile up until you can't ignore it anymore? If you're the San Francisco 49ers, you pick up the phone, call the Miami Dolphins, and propose a trade that solves problems for both franchises, even if it means admitting you made a catastrophic mistake just 2 years ago. The scenario is simple but brutal. San Francisco sends Brandon Aiyuk and his massive contract to Miami in exchange for edge rusher Bradley Chubb. The 49ers get a proven pass rusher to replace the irreplaceable Nick Bosa, who's done for the season with a devastating injury. Miami gets a potential elite receiver to replace Tyreek Hill, who's also finished for 2025 after suffering a gruesome knee injury. Both teams address glaring needs. Both teams move on from uncomfortable situations. And both teams would probably celebrate the moment those signatures dry on the trade paperwork. But let's be honest about what this really represents. San Francisco admitting they screwed up monumentally with Brandon Aiyuk. After his breakout 2023 season, 1,342 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, and Pro Bowl recognition, the 49ers rewarded him with a massive contract extension that made him one of the highest-paid receivers in the NFL. It seemed justified at the time. Aiyuk looked like the perfect complement to Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, giving the 49ers an embarrassment of riches in the passing game and creating matchup nightmares for opposing defenses. Then everything fell apart. Aiyuk's 2024 campaign was a massive disappointment even before the injury that ultimately ended it. His production dropped. His effort was questioned. His body language on the sidelines became a recurring storyline. And then came the brutal knee injury that's kept him sidelined indefinitely, with no clear timeline for return and serious questions about whether he'll ever recapture his 2023 form. Now, the 49ers are stuck paying elite money to a player who can't contribute, can't be counted on, and has caused more headaches and highlights over the past 18 months. The timing couldn't be worse, or better, depending on your perspective. Nick Bosa's season-ending injury has absolutely gutted San Francisco's pass rush. Bosa isn't just their best offensive player. He's one of the 5 or 6 most impactful defenders in the entire NFL. He warps offensive game plans, commands constant double teams, and creates opportunities for everyone around him. Losing him for the season drops the 49ers' Super Bowl odds by at least 20 to 25% according to most betting markets. That's how irreplaceable he is. And that's how desperate San Francisco should be to find even a partial replacement. Enter Bradley Chubb, the 29-year-old edge rusher, who's quietly having a solid 2025 season in Miami, with 4 sacks through 5 games. Yes, he missed all of 2024 recovering from a torn ACL, the same catastrophic injury that's ruined countless careers. But Chubb's 2023 season before the injury showed he still had plenty left in the tank. 11 sacks in 16 games, consistent quarterback pressure, and the kind of veteran savvy that makes him effective even when his athleticism isn't quite what it once was. That's exactly the profile San Francisco needs right now. Chubb is under contract through 2027, which gives the 49ers 3 full seasons of a proven pass rusher who can hold down the edge position until Bosa returns, and then form a devastating duo alongside him for the next 2 years. That's massive value, especially considering San Francisco's championship window is right now. They're 4-1, leading their division and positioned to make another deep playoff run and it's a massive if, they can find ways to replace Bosa's production. Chubb doesn't fully replace it, but he provides enough pressure to keep defenses honest and prevent opposing quarterbacks from getting too comfortable. From Miami's perspective, this trade makes equal sense for entirely different reasons. The Dolphins are 1-4 and spiraling after losing Tyreek Hill to what's being reported as a season-ending knee injury. Hill was their entire offense, the player who opened up everything for everyone else, the deep threat that forced safeties to stay back, the playmaker who could turn a 3-yard slant into a 75-yard touchdown. Losing him doesn't just hurt Miami's offense. It completely destroys whatever identity they had and exposes all their other weaknesses. Aiyuk represents a potential replacement who's already proven he can operate as a number one receiver when healthy. His 2023 season wasn't a fluke. It was a culmination of steady improvement and elite route running that made him nearly impossible to cover consistently. Yes, he's coming off a serious knee injury with an uncertain timeline. Yes, his 2024 performance was disappointing. But Miami is desperate, and desperate teams take risks on talented players with something to prove. Aiyuk would have every motivation to resurrect his career in a new environment, away from the drama and disappointment that's defined his recent time in San Francisco. The contract situation actually works in everyone's favor here. Aiyuk is signed through 2028, giving Miami control of a potential franchise receiver for 4 more seasons. That's exactly the kind of long-term security teams crave when building around a young quarterback like Tua Tagovailoa, assuming Tua himself has a long-term future in Miami, which is increasingly questionable. But regardless of who's throwing him the ball, Aiyuk under contract for 4 years of his current deal is a valuable asset, even accounting for his recent struggles. San Francisco's receiver depth makes this trade even more palatable for them. Even without Aiyuk, the 49ers have Ricky Pearsall emerging as a legitimate threat, Jawan Jennings proving he can be a consistent target, Kendrick Bourne providing veteran reliability, DeMarcus Robinson contributing as a complementary piece, and rookie Jordan Watkins showing flashes of potential. That's a deep, talented group that can absolutely function without Aiyuk, especially when you factor in Deebo Samuel and George Kittle still commanding defensive attention. The elephant in the room is Aiyuk's drama over the past 2 years. The contract negotiations that dragged into training camp, the social media posts that seemed designed to create tension, the body language during games that suggested he wasn't fully committed, the rumored friction with coaches and teammates. None of that is explicitly confirmed, but there's enough smoke to suggest some level of fire. Getting rid of that distraction while addressing a critical need at edge rusher would be addition by subtraction for San Francisco's locker room chemistry. John Lynch, San Francisco's general manager, has built his reputation on aggressive moves that maximize the 49ers' championship window. He traded multiple first-round picks for Trey Lance. He's consistently gone all in on veteran free agents. He's shown zero hesitation about sacrificing future assets for present-day success. Trading Aiyuk for Chubb fits that philosophy perfectly. You're moving a problematic piece for an immediate upgrade at your biggest position of need. That's textbook win now, thinking from a front office that understands their window won't stay open forever. Miami's perspective is complicated by their organizational chaos. At 1-4 with their head coach on a hot seat, and their franchise quarterback's future uncertain. Are they really in position to trade away draft capital or productive veterans for an injured receiver with no clear return timeline? Maybe not, but if Mike McDaniel believes he's coaching for his job, and he absolutely should believe that, then making a desperate move for Aiyuk could be his way of showing ownership. He's doing everything possible to salvage the season. Sometimes the worst decisions are made by people who know they're about to be fired and feel compelled to swing for the fences. The medical evaluations would be absolutely critical in any potential trade. Both Aiyuk and Chubb are coming off serious injuries that have lingering implications. Aiyuk's knee injury requires extensive evaluation to determine his realistic recovery timeline and whether he'll ever regain the explosiveness that made him elite. Chubb's ACL repair needs similar scrutiny. At 29 years old, his body has absorbed tremendous punishment, and ACL injuries have a nasty habit of leading to decreased performance even after successful rehabilitation. Both teams would need their medical staffs to sign off before proceeding. The salary cap implications favor San Francisco significantly in this proposed trade. Moving Aiyuk's contract off their books frees up substantial cap space while taking on Chubb's deal, which runs through 2027 at manageable numbers for a quality edge rusher. Miami would absorb Aiyuk's contract, committing significant resources to a player who hasn't been on the field in over a year. That's a massive risk for a franchise that desperately needs certainty, not more question marks. There's also the division rival factor to consider. The 49ers and Dolphins don't play each other regularly, which removes the awkward situation of facing your former player multiple times per season. That makes the trade cleaner emotionally and strategically. San Francisco doesn't have to worry about Aiyuk coming back to haunt them in critical divisional games, and Miami doesn't face that concern with Chubb. The November 4th trade deadline looms large over all of this speculation. Both franchises need to make decisions quickly if they're serious about addressing their needs before the window closes. San Francisco at 4-1 needs to strike, while their playoff positioning is strong. Miami at 1-4 needs to decide whether they're salvaging the season or punting to 2026 and beyond. Those timelines create urgency that could force both sides to the negotiating table, even if neither feels completely comfortable with the terms. Kyle Shanahan's offensive system is notoriously receiver-friendly, which means San Francisco can afford to lose Aiyuk more easily than most teams could lose their second-best receiver. Shanahan has consistently produced quality receiver performance from mid-round draft picks and undrafted free agents. His scheme generates open receivers through motion, misdirection, and creative play design rather than relying purely on individual talent. That systemic advantage makes Aiyuk more expendable than he'd be in a less sophisticated offensive system. Conversely, Miami's offense under Mike McDaniel is built around speed and explosive plays, which theoretically makes Aiyuk a perfect fit. When healthy, his ability to separate the top of routes and track deep balls would complement Jalen Waddle nicely and give Tua Tagovailoa the kind of reliable downfield target every quarterback craves. The offensive fit is obvious, which would make McDaniel an internal advocate for making this trade happen despite the risks. The reality is that both franchises would be taking significant gambles here. San Francisco would be betting that Chubb can stay healthy and productive for 3 more seasons while their championship window remains open. Miami would be betting that Aiyuk can recover fully, recapture his 2023 form, and become the number 1 receiver they desperately need. Both bets could easily backfire, leaving both teams worse off than before. But both teams are also in positions where standing pat might be even more dangerous than taking the risk. If this trade happens, and that's still a massive if, it would represent one of the more fascinating deadline deals in recent memory. 2 teams essentially swapping their buyer's remorse contracts and hoping the change of scenery resurrects players who've disappointed their current organizations. 2 front offices admitting mistakes and trying to turn lemons into lemonade. 2 coaching staffs getting one last chance to prove they can maximize different types of talent. It's the kind